Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Talking Chronos. This watch went to the moon. Well, not this exact one, but its ancestors did. It's the Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch, probably the most famous chronograph ever. And somehow, despite being surrounded by watches, I've actually never owned a Speedmaster before, and that's probably a personality flaw. Now this one belongs to my friend Jason, and shout out to him for letting me borrow it for the channel. Now he picked it up as his first watch because his dad always wore an Omega, or maybe it's because he's really into moons. Either way, I can't really blame him. It's a solid piece. So the question is, does this modern Sapphire Sandwich still deserve its legendary status? Let's find out. This watch went to the moon, and Omega would never let you forget it, ever. It's on the case back, it's in the marketing, and I'm pretty sure it's somehow encoded in the serial number. It might actually be one of the first wristwatches to ever get a nickname, and to be fair, it's earned it. Back in the 1960s, NASA needed a watch that would survive manned space missions. As the space program ramped up, Omega was one of the 4 brands invited to submit chronographs for qualifications. What followed was basically NASA asking, how do we destroy a watch, and then actually doing that. Extreme heat, extreme cold, shock, vibration, vacuum. Just simple, relentless abuse. And only one watch made it through. One, the Omega Speedmaster. And this wasn't just a certificate to hang on a wall. When Apollo 11 landed in July of 1969, that same watch went with them. Buzz Aldrin wore his Speedmaster on the lunar surface, quietly confirming that NASA hadn't just tested this thing for fun. It actually worked when it mattered most. Now let's be real, this exact watch didn't go to the moon, but it carries forward that design, that heritage, and that aura. It's a reminder of human achievement, even if I'm mostly using it to check the time on my desk, and I mostly see a watch that needs winding. Anyways, let's talk about what you actually get for your money. This is a 2022 Speedmaster Professional, reference number 310.30.42.50.01.002. Wow, I'm never reading that ever again. Now people call it the Sapphire Sandwich because it has a sapphire crystal on both the front and back of the watch. Though calling a watch a sandwich based on what it's wrapped in feels a little backwards, like describing a burger by its bun. Yeah, I'll take the sesame seed burger please. Now the case is 42mm wide, just over 13mm thick, and on paper those are very chunky numbers, but it wears smaller than it measures. On my 7-inch wrist, it feels like a 40mm watch, maybe even 39mm. I think it's the lyre lugs playing tricks on the eyes. And I really like the bracelet taper, which is 20mm at the case and 15mm at the clasp. That's a very serious drop. I've always thought that the Moonwatch was a little boring, nothing bold or eye-catching, but having spent a little time with the watch, I actually really like this bracelet. The polished links are only available on this Sapphire Sandwich reference, and you get a mix of brushed and polished links. The center links are brushed, and the ones flanking them are polished. Now I usually don't like polished surfaces on bracelets, but I think this just gives it enough bling here. You get 50 meters of water resistance, which look, it'll survive a hand wash, but for $9 grand, it feels like they could have thrown in another 50 meters. And here's a fun fact, the early Sapphire Sandwich models came without the on-the-fly easy adjustment, also known as the micro adjustment clasp. Here's a look at the older style clasp which requires a tool for adjustment versus the new micro adjustment clasp with the on-the-fly micro adjustment. If you own one of these, you can upgrade to the newer micro adjustment clasp with on-the-fly adjustability for an extension of 2.3mm equaling half a link for better comfort on those hot days. Now you can order this new clasp and the connecting link from your Omega AD, and this is exactly what Jason did. Now this is great to know for any of you early Sapphire Sandwich reference owners who are looking to make this upgrade, and I'll include the part numbers for those looking for this upgrade above. Now speaking of changing how a watch actually wears, let's take a quick break and talk about the sponsor of today's video, Watch Innovation Straps. And honestly, if you collect watches like this Omega Seamaster 300M, the strap problem is inevitable. The watch arrives, looks great, and within about 48 hours, you're already back on the hunt to change it up. WIS was started by collectors and focuses on better materials, proper fit, and straps that belong on your treasured timepieces. What I appreciate is the focus on real-world wear, comfort, flexibility, and how the material actually breaks in over time. These aren't just designed to look good in photos, they're meant to be worn and loved. They've also got the proper tools for the job, like this bracelet removal tool, because at some point, I'll just use a SIM card ejector stop being a valid strategy. If you swap straps as often as I do, having something precise and controlled makes a real difference. The last thing you want is a slip tool skating across the case of the watch you really care about. They also make strap storage cases that are practical and really hits the mark. Perfect for anyone rotating straps regularly and wanting everything organized instead of stuffed into a drawer somewhere. If you want to check them out, WIS was kind enough to set up a 20% off code, TC20. You can use the link in the description below at wisstraps.com/TC20. It does support the channel, and as always, everything you're seeing here reflects my honest experience. Alright, let's now get back to the Speedmaster. The matte black step dial is really where this watch shows up. Now on the Sapphire Sandwich, the Omega logo is applied metal now instead of painted. It's a tiny detail, but it makes a big difference. It has simple baton indices, classic alpha style hands, and 3 subdials doing chronograph things. The bezel is aluminum with a tachymeter scale, not ceramic, aluminum. So it'll scratch, it'll fade, patina, and it'll show age. Now some people might hate this. I think it's honest, and watches should look like they've been worn and have gone places. And there's a famous dot over 90 on the bezel, a little dot over the 90 instead of a slash. It's a callback to the original Moonwatch. Watch nerds lose their minds over this, and honestly, it does look pretty cool. Omega uses Super-LumiNova on the hour markers and hands. It emits a green glow brightly in the dark, and the plots aren't huge and it isn't dive watch intense, but it's very noticeable for a chronograph of its type. It's bright enough, and most importantly, it's consistent, refined, and purposeful. Very Speedmaster. After all, when NASA qualified this watch, legibility in any condition mattered. Up top, you get a domed sapphire crystal, and it gives it that vintage dome look without the stress of babying acrylic every time you walk past furniture. Now this is a good looking watch. I've seen thousands of photos of Speedmasters, but wearing one on the wrist is very different. It's not too loud, it's not too flashy, just confident, like it knows exactly what it is. Inside is Omega's caliber 3861, often used to describe the Sapphire Sandwich, the 3861 Speedmaster. I'll take that any day over that long reference number that I'm never going to repeat again. Now this is a manual wind watch, so you're winding this yourself every day or every other day if you've got good power reserve discipline. It's a master chronometer, which means it passed META certification. The Swiss Federal Institute of Metrology doesn't just check for accuracy. They test the movement in multiple positions under magnetic fields up to 15,000 Gauss at different temperatures and even after casing. Basically, they measure for real-world performance. The caliber 3861 hits 0 to plus 5 seconds per day, hacks and winds manually. Now you pull the crown and the second hand stops. It seems like a simple thing, but older Speedmasters couldn't do it. 50 hours of power reserve keeps you covered for a couple days if you skip a wind, and the Co-Axial escapement is the quiet upgrade that makes all of this possible. You have less friction, better long-term accuracy, and longer service intervals. Think of it as swapping regular oil for synthetic, subtle but game-changing. And through the sapphire caseback, it's a treat to watch. Rhodium-plated finishes, decorated Geneva waves, and polished screws. The balance wheel looks like tiny art. Not handset, but really who's counting? Now some Speedmaster collectors, and yes, they're very serious people, think that the coaxial escapement ruins the authenticity. I say it's a welcomed upgrade. How about you guys? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Now how's it wear? Really comfortable actually. Like mentioned earlier, the bracelet taper does wonders. It wraps around your wrist nicely and the links move well. There's no weird sticking points. But those pushers, they're perfect. They click like a mechanical keyboard, crisp and satisfying. Starting and stopping the chrono feels tactile and precise. This is the good stuff and Omega has it down. Now for some money talk. This watch in 2026 is $9,000 US before sales tax. That's real money, and that's why did I just spend this much on a watch money? So is it worth it? Well, that depends why you're buying. If strapping this on knowing you're wearing the same model lineage that went to the moon makes you smile, if you like the idea that this isn't just a watch and it's part of space history, then yeah, it might be worth it. You don't buy a Speedmaster because it's the most practical way to tell time. You buy it because it's a Speedmaster, and sometimes history costs extra. Does the Omega Speedmaster Sapphire Sandwich deserve its legendary status? Yeah, I think it does, and it's an excellent watch with an iconic design, impressive movement, great finishing, and wears beautifully. Would I buy one for myself? Honestly, probably not. Not because it's bad, it's great, but I don't use chronographs enough to justify this, and there are other pieces in my collection that serve a similar daily wear purpose, and that 50-meter water resistance bothers me more than it should. But if you've always wanted a Speedmaster, if you love the design, the history, or just want to own something legendary, go for it. It's worth it. Just maybe don't expect cosmic enlightenment when you strap it on. Unless you're Jason, he seems pretty enlightened, or maybe he's really just into moons. Alright, that's the Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch. Big thanks again to Jason for lending me this watch. I promise I didn't scratch it much. What do you think? Is a Speedmaster worth the hype? Would you go Sapphire, or actually never mind, we're not doing that debate today. And if you enjoyed this, make sure to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. I have more watch reviews and content coming your way soon. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.